Hi, everyone. So we are in the stretch run of our training today. Thanks so much for your continued energy and participation as we charge forward. See what I did there. Thanks, Suzanne, for the pity laugh. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Eric Salcedo. I'm with APIA Vote, Asian and Pacific Islander American Vote. And we're going to very quickly and succinctly and hopefully clearly review the redistricting rules and timelines. But before that, I'll let Suzanne introduce herself as well.
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Suzanne Almeida. I work with the Common Cause National Redistricting Team.
Awesome. So today, our conversation will be in two parts. First, we're going to talk about the important questions to ask when you're doing research and preparing to submit testimony during the redistricting process. And then later, Suzanne and I, we're also going to be talking about the redistricting timeline, what to expect, when to expect it, and a deeper dive into two states, California and Georgia. Please keep in mind that this is not all the information, it's the very tip of the iceberg of all the information that you're going to need. But we're going to make sure that to share with you all the resources and where to find the information that you need at the end of this presentation. So first, what are like the questions that you need to keep in mind when you think about what your group is going to be doing for redistricting? One, what is the type of level of government that your redistricting wants to be involved in, right? We've all heard about on Monday, they did the reapportionment of congressional seats. So we know Texas is gaining 2 seats, California is losing 1 seat, there's that level. You may also want to think about how your state's legislative districts are drawn, because those may or may not change. At the county level, we have elected representatives, commissioners, boards of supervisors, or judges, and they make decisions about major social services, including health and safety and sheriff's departments. On the city level, you may be interested on how the city council or wards are drawn, and that's very important in terms of representation. And don't forget school boards, which are oftentimes the first place that a community that have traditionally been left out can have an impact in electing candidates of their choosing. So you'll also want to think about whether or not to get involved in submitting testimony about your community. And then also, are you trying to do more and try to draw a map of a proposed district, or even a small map of the districts in the state, county, and etc. So you need to think about what's the breadth and at what level do you want to think about testifying and drawing your lines of your district or your map. Each level of government, this is good to know, may have different rules for the who draws the lines, how a community can participate, and what is the timeline, right? Those are 3 huge things. Who draws the rules, who can participate, and what is the timeline? Right, we have some information about each state's timelines that will be available in the rules for drawing the congressional, state, and local legislative districts. But just to reinforce, the 3 key questions that you'll ask at any type of level of redistricting that you're going to be doing is, again, who makes the decisions, when are the public hearings, and how do we submit information? By email, through a portal, in person, what's the deal? Then I'm going to toss it now to Suzanne. She's just going to quickly, am I doing this timeline real quick, right, Suzanne?
Yeah, I think so.
The thing I want to note in this timeline, see, it's different for each state, but note the mad scramble to draw districts, right, because of the impact of the pandemic in this process.
Yes. So thanks so much, Eric. Again, this is not all of the information that you all are going to need, right? But this is a taste and should get you thinking about the questions to ask. So we know apportionment data, which is that data that came out from the Census Bureau on, oh my gosh, it was like only Monday. It's been a very long week. About how many congressional seats each state's going to get. we are expecting what the Census Bureau is calling legacy data to come out in the middle to the end of August. So legacy data is not old data, it is current redistricting data in an older format. So it would need some processing by states or by map makers in order to be useful for redistricting. And then finally, we expect the redistricting data to come out by September 30th. And this is going to be the fancy tabulated bells and whistles package from the Census Bureau. And then, just to really highlight what Eric said, from October to the end of the year, we are looking at what is going to be an actual mad scramble. So that's why we're doing these trainings at this point, to really set us up for success towards the end of the fall. So how do we know that this timeline is different than we typically see? So I wanted to talk very quickly about how these census timelines are going to impact redistricting going on. We know that every state has their own timeline, and we know that, so there are about 3 buckets, right? There's sub buckets, but we're going to talk about 3. There are 2 states, New Jersey and Virginia, that have state legislative elections this year. That means that they are unable to hold those elections using 2020 census data. It's just not going to be available. So those states will hold elections using old district lines and then redistrict next year. There are 13 states that have redistricting deadlines before September 30th. And so those 13 states may need to ask the courts or the legislature or some other body in the state to move those deadlines. And there are states that are absolutely taking those steps in order to do that. So Oregon, California, Michigan, off the top of my head, but there are also more. And then finally, the third bucket is the states that have a candidate filing deadlines before March 1st, 2022. So this is important because we know that districts need to be in place in order for candidates to know where they're running and start running their campaigns. And so in states where that deadline is in March, it's important that those states look at other options, such as moving either the candidate filing deadline or their primary. I do want to note just one quick thing, that this says the revised schedule was by April 30th. It came out on April 26th. So we are, a little ahead of schedule, but not that much. This is just another visualization of what we ran through in the last slide. I am a person that likes to look at color-coded maps, so I figured I would show it to you as well. You can see the 2, the 13, the 5, and the 5 here as well. And all of this information will be available both on redistrictingcommunitycollege.com and commoncause.com. So we are going to look at 2 states, and we're going to start with California. And the reason we are choosing California is that there are a number of you on the call today from California. For those of you who are not going to cover your states in this part of the presentation, please know that information does exist and is available. So this is the timeline for California. The California Independent Redistricting Commission went to court in the fall and asked the court to actually move their constitutional deadlines. They were successful, and really the important thing to look at here is the fact, A, they were proactive, and B, that they moved the deadlines in such a way to allow for enough public input. As Charge Hub members, one of the things that we're talking about today over and over, and you're going to get tired of us saying is that it's really about community input. It's really about people having a voice in where their district lines are drawn. And so when we're talking about moving these timelines and these deadlines, it's important that that is built into the process. So California also has not a few rules, right? So we know that the congressional and the state lines are both drawn by an independent redistricting commission, and that redistricting commission comes with a lot of rules about how they are drawn, when hearings are, and other things. There are also a lot of mapping rules in California, which is good, right? So we're seeing that there's federal equal population requirements and adherence to the Voting Rights Act. We talked about both of those things today. California has to adjust data to count incarcerated individuals at their last known residence. Some people call this prison gerrymandering reform. Districts have to be drawn with these criteria in priority order. So population equality, VRA, they must be contiguous, which means all points must touch. They have to preserve geographic integrity of existing jurisdictions and communities of interest, and when possible, encourage compactness. And then there's finally another requirement, which is nesting, which is kind of the epitome of the Venn diagram that we were talking about in that VRA section, which is where California Assembly and Senate districts must be nested. So 2 assembly seats in each Senate district. I'm going to toss back to Eric.
Thanks, Suzanne. So, wow, look at that. California, a lot of rules, a lot of protections for folks. What does it look like in Georgia, right? Here's the timeline, because every state's different, right, in terms of, where we are right now, in terms of taking the period of getting communities of interest testimony to when they start, putting together the hearings and such. They prep, and then they release the data, and then we have candidate filing, and then the election, right? Everyone has a timeline that's similar but different. For the Georgia rules, what are the mapping rules, right? There are very few rules. Unlike California, the ones that apply for Georgia, the Voting Rights Act, right? Making sure that it meets those regulations there, and contiguity, that all state legislative districts must be contiguous. Those are the rules. Who draws the lines? It's drawn by the state legislature, and both the congressional lines and the state legislative lines are drawn by the state legislature.
So that was a lot of information very quickly. All of this information, all of the slides you're seeing today are going to be available on redistrictingcommunitycollege.com or on the Common Cause website. We have additional timeline information up for many of the states and are slowly working to put all of that information up as we complete the research. And with that, only 2 minutes over, I am going to toss it back to Lauren.